The FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, has suddenly ordered, years ahead of schedule, a review of licenses for the Disney-owned and operated ABC local stations. Now, this comes just one day after the First Lady and the President demanded ABC and its parent company, Disney, fire Jimmy Kimmel over a joke he made on his late-night talk show days before the White House correspondent dinner. The FCC is saying in a filing, and I quote, Disney's ABC is hereby directed to file license renewals for all of their licensed TV stations within 30 days, in other words, by May 28, 2026. The FCC chair, Brendan Carr, is a Trump ally. Now the FCC says the license review is related to an ongoing probe into Disney's diversity initiatives. It would only involve the 8 ABC stations owned by Disney. Critics of the action see it as government retaliation for airing Kimmel's show and resisting pressure from the president. Disney released a statement that reads, quote, ABC and its stations have a long record of operating in full compliance with FCC rules and serving their local communities with trusted news, emergency information, and public interest programming. Disney adds, we are confident the record demonstrates our continued qualifications as licensees under the Communications Act and the First Amendment and are prepared to show that through the appropriate legal channels. Now, again, the FCC action comes on the heels of Melania Trump calling for Jimmy Kimmel's firing based on this joke he told in a sketch last Thursday.
And of course, our First Lady Melania is here. Look at Melania, so beautiful. Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow.
That was 3 days before the shooting. Monday morning, the First Lady posted on X, his monologue about my family isn't comedy, his words are corrosive, and they deepen the political sickness within the country. The president later said the joke was a, quote, despicable call to violence, and added that Kimmel should be immediately fired by Disney and ABC. Kimmel, for his part, is not backing down, had this to say on the show last night.
It was a very light roast joke about the fact that he's almost 80 and she's younger than I am. It was not, by any stretch of the definition, a call to assassination, and they know that. I agree that hateful and violent rhetoric is something we should reject. I do, and I think a great place to start to dial that back would be to have a conversation with your husband about it.
Joining me now is Bill Carter, editor-at-large of LateNighter.com. Also CNN media analyst Sarah Fisher, who is a media correspondent at Axios. So, Bill, what do you make of how Kimmel responded to the president and First Lady? Do you think he has anything to be worried about at this point? Obviously, ABC and Disney have not taken him off the air.
Doesn't seem like he does. I think he responded very calmly and in character. I mean, he wasn't intimidated. He made jokes. He did say he clearly didn't want this to be implying violence. I think he covered himself and gave, ABC and Disney a safe harbor in what they have to do, which is stand up to what is now a naked intimidation tactic.
Sir, how extraordinary is this FCC order that all ABC stations have to apply, local stations have to apply for license renewals within 30 days? This wasn't supposed to happen for another couple of years.
It's completely unprecedented, Anderson, for several reasons. One, as you note, they're expediting the review. We rarely see that happen. Typically, you just reapply for your license when it expires every 8 years. Two, they are citing this public interest standard, which is very rarely cited for things like DEI in going after these stations. And then three, you typically go after one broadcast station if you find that something that they did violated your rules. You don't go after every single station that's owned by a broadcast network. And so all of these things combined lead people to believe that Chairman Carr is going after Disney and ABC, trying to, impose a punishment for the way that they are covering things, as opposed to taking issue with what one broadcaster has actually done that could violate its rules.
Bill, do you think the FCC is going to try to make ABC stations' support for Kimmel a factor in whether their licenses get renewed? I mean, is this like the only lever the FCC has to pull right now against Disney?
I find that really astonishing. I mean, are they going to make the case that his speech is somehow to be condemned? I mean, clearly, ABC is going to say the man has a First Amendment right, and we're going to stand up for it. I don't think that'll in any way fly. I mean, look, this is part of his retribution tour. I mean, he's going after people who criticize him or make fun of him, or in James Comey's case, didn't support him. And Kimmel is obviously a person that irritates him, and he doesn't back down. And he gets people like Carr and the people in the Justice Department to do this, even though they have to know there's no case to be made here. This is harassment. And really, it's just an effort that I think is going to fail, because I can't see Disney caving into this. It's irritating to them, and it's certainly stress on Kimmel, but I can't see them backing down. It's too important.
Sir, I mean, Brendan Carr certainly has a record here of backing up things it seems like the president wants done. I want to play a clip from December when Carr was asked by Democratic Senator Ben Ray Lujan about the agency's independence.
So is your website wrong? Is your website lying?
Possibly. The FCC is not an independent agency.
Okay, can I read this to you? The FCC's mission on the homepage of the FCC, man. An independent U.S. government agency overseen by Congress. Is that factual or is that a lie?
The FCC is not formally an independent agency.
Is this true?
I mean, is the FCC an independent agency?
Yes, and Anderson, when that exchange happened, I took a screenshot of the FCC's website right as he was saying that, and a half hour later, they had actually scrubbed the word independent from the website. So you can kind of see that they're sort of making up their interpretation of what the agency's role is in real time. The FCC is supposed to act independently from the executive branch. And by the way, so is the DOJ. So are so many of these, agencies. But in the Trump administration, it's been a trend that he is trying to sort of consolidate power over what are supposed to be these independent branches. For Brendan Carr, I got to say, this has been surprising. In all the many years that he served as a lawyer at the FCC, of course, he was conservative, but he was not somebody that seemed to be in the pocket of any one president or political figure. He seemed to have made this sort of 180-degree switch once he became the chairman, I think likely to keep his position. We see how Donald Trump acts towards his members of his cabinet and his administration when they don't fall in line.
It's so interesting to see all these characters pop up in all these different places willing to do whatever it takes, it seems, to please the President of the United States.
Members of the Trump administration sometimes seem a bit selective in what they consider beyond the pale when it comes to jokes, because, frankly, we've heard plenty of jokes from Trump and his allies about actual attacks that had happened in the past, including that brutal 2022 hammer attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul, which left him severely injured and traumatized by a lunatic with a hammer.
Well, maybe Paul Pelosi needs the hammer instead of the metal.
Well, it's metal. All right. Rachel, good to see you.
Metal.
We'll stand up to crazy Nancy Pelosi, who ruined San Francisco. How's her husband doing, by the way? Anybody know? And she's against building a wall at our border, even though she has a wall around her house, which obviously didn't do a very good job.
The apple did not fall far from the tree. Donald Trump Jr. posted on Instagram around that same time, "Got my Paul Pelosi Halloween costume ready. It's underwear and a hammer." Why is that funny? Her husband was hit in the head with a hammer and he's still injured. Why does anybody think that's funny? Republican officials and pundits have also taken issue with people calling Trump fascist or a tyrant, saying that that sort of rhetoric leads others to commit acts of violence.
The entire Democrat Party has made their pitch to voters across the country that Donald Trump poses an existential threat to democracy, that he is a fascist, and that they compare him to Hitler. I mean, these are despicable statements that the American people have been consuming for years. And so many mentally perturbed individuals are led to believe these words are truth and then are inspired to act on it.
Okay, I hear that. What's the response to this?
We pledge to you that we will root out the communists, Marxists, fascists, and the radical left thugs that live like vermin within the confines of our country, that lie and steal and cheat on elections. The threat from outside forces is far less sinister, dangerous, and grave than the threat from within. Our threat is from within. She's a Marxist, communist, fascist, socialist.
That last remark, of course, directed at Trump's then opponent, then Vice President Kamala Harris.